The Bill of Rights tells us that we are one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It also tells us that we have inalienable rights, that we are all equal, and that we all can pursue life and happiness. Justice for all. It doesn't say that justice is to be metered out according to the means of the individual. It is justice for the poor and for the rich. It doesn't say justice only for the corporations and not the consumer. It's justice for all. Each country, each society understands justice in different ways. And in our country, we understand it very much as a system of rights and obligations and process. Due process, substantive process. And we're very familiar with the concept of criminal law, where the state comes and takes your liberty. Civil law, it's a little different. Civil law is enmeshed in our daily activities. And it is not the state coming to take your liberty. It's more the relationships and the obligations that you have to each other and to other parties. And so civil law includes healthcare. It includes education. For example, if your child is disabled and he's struggling at school, maybe there's discipline issues. Maybe he's truant. There may be civil law issues involved there, where if you had an attorney, you may do a little better, or if you knew what your rights were or what the process of discipline is. Or it could be an issue with housing. You could be living in a property that you're renting, you have a relationship with your landlord, and there's something going on with the heat. That's a civil law issue. Their rights and obligations, and if you knew the process, or if you know what the law provides for you and your landlord, maybe the resolution of the problem will be a lot smoother. Same thing with family law. Now, the thing with civil law is that different from criminal law is that you're on your own. You don't have a right to a free lawyer when you're in the civil realm of life, which is most of your life. So in the school issue, you don't have a right to a free lawyer. If your mom went to the hospital and now she's getting hounded by creditors from a nonprofit hospital, she doesn't have the right to a free lawyer. You get the point. You're on your own. Now, in the United States, we have 60 million people who are low income. 60 million people. And when we look at how many times they're experiencing, at least in a year, one civil legal aid program, civil law problem, it's 71%. One problem a year. That's almost 3/4 of them are facing one of the issues on their own. Now, if you happen to have a household where you have a veteran, it could be your spouse, it could be your parent, it could be your son, who served this country, that household has a higher likelihood of experiencing one civil legal aid problem. And if you happen to have children under 18, right, you're bringing up the next generation, your likelihood of having at least one problem, it's even higher. So happy birthday. So when we look at the supply in Washington State of free lawyers that are working in law firms that are nonprofit to work with the community in helping them resolve their individual problems, according to the Justice Index in Washington State, we have 1.09 lawyers per 10,000 people that need one. Now, this Justice Index is a national measure, and you can check it out, justiceindex.org. Every state has a different measure. The state that's doing the best has 9 lawyers per 10,000 people. That's the number one state. That happens to be the District of Columbia, right? And in Washington State, we're not doing that bad. We are number 6. And in being number 6, we have 1 free lawyer per 10,000 people. So how many lawyers do we have to help people that need? Not enough. Really not enough. Now, also in our state, according to the Office of Civil Legal Aid, in a survey that they did on need for free lawyers, what they found out in 2015 is that in our state, we're a little higher than the average in terms of the need. And for families that have more than 4 problems a year, almost half of all of our families that are low income have more than 4 problems a year. Now, mind you that some of these problems are not like, it's not like express. They don't get resolved. You're on your own, you're stressed out, you may be sick, you are low income, you may be depressed, you may be middle class. But the problem is not gonna take care of itself every 3 months, right? You could be dealing with a problem from last year. So we have families living with us in our communities that have a cumulative weight of problems that are affecting their family, their children, their health, their salary, their employment. Just think about it. It's an incredible amount of need. So that's the justice gap, right? All these problems, 1 per 10,000, with some families having so many problems. So to understand how people deal with this situation in everyday life, the American Bar Association did a study where they surveyed in a city that they picked to be the average mid-city. And they sampled it so that it would be representative of a mid-city in the United States. And they asked people, what do you do when you have a civil law program? How do you solve it? How do you go about taking care of these things that you have to take care of so that you don't lose your kid or end up homeless or the kid is kicked out of school? And one of the things that was really astonishing for everyone finding out this result is that only 7% of people seek help from an advisor. And this is an advisor loosely defined. It's not a lawyer. It's a priest. It's a person that's in a position of confidence. It could be a friend that they go to. It's kind of their go-to person. Or a lawyer. So only 7% of people that are facing one of these crises seeks help, meaning that 93% of people don't seek help. So, wow, right? That's amazing. So they asked people, so why are you not seeking help with these problems, right? You're gonna lose your housing, you could lose your job, you're not getting paid. And so what they found out is that a lot of people view these problems basically as bad luck. Many people think that it's fate, that it was meant to happen, or it's irreversible, right? That's very sad, and about 1 in 5 think it's a private matter. Some of these issues are embarrassing, there's shame. There may be an issue of power maybe between an employer and an employee, or your car mechanic, or whoever, right? We don't talk about that outside the house. Right? That's a cultural thing too. And then many people found that they didn't think, they have no idea that there may be a legal dimension where they may have some remedy. They just don't even consider these problems. They think it's bad luck or fate. It's not a legal problem, so why am I even gonna look for help? And what we were very shocked in the field, in the legal aid field, is that we always think that people are not looking for advice or anything because we think that people think that it's very expensive. In reality, that was not the reason. Now, digging a little closer, people don't view the problems as legal. And many people think that they can do them by themselves. The ones that don't seek help think that they can do it by themselves, not realizing that it can be a very nuisance problem resolution, right? And they start out by themselves, and they don't show up, they get overwhelmed, etc. So the result ends up being less than optimal. Now, the good news is that to get to justice for all, there are actually multiple doors, right? You can find justice going through many different doors. So there's not just one path. And what we're learning in providing free civil legal services is that what we're learning is that oftentimes if you collocate a lawyer in a hospital, let's say you have an attorney placed at a clinic that's dealing with chronic conditions like asthma and diabetes, having the lawyer with the doctors treating the medical condition, if you're resolving, let's say there's somebody that's in the emergency room for uncontrolled diabetes, that person is not controlling their diabetes because they are not going home because there's a conflict with the landlord or the roommate, and so they're not taking care of their diet, they're not taking their medicine. If you resolve the housing problem, you resolve the chronic condition. And what the studies are showing us is that now not only does the health improve, but also the person may be able to get long-term stable housing that they can afford through the legal intervention, right? So this is called the medical legal partnership model, and it's been around for about 15 years. And it's expanding across the country because it's good outcomes in health, good outcomes in justice, and it comes through a hospital, right? Which is a place where you would not think you would find justice, a path to justice. The other thing that's happening across the country is that, the law clerks are seeing 300, 400 people a day with the same question. And they can't help because the law clerks don't do advice, and this is in the court. In many, many states now, courts have set up what they call self-help centers. And in these self-help centers, they're helping people with eviction, with foreclosure, with guardianship, with all types of problems by bringing in law students, AmeriCorps volunteers, hiring lawyers from legal aid, and using technology, computers. And people can because people oftentimes go to the court looking for help. And instead of saying, oh no, we only do the family law cases here, and actually we cannot even tell you how to fill out the form, the courts have changed that, and with the community, are partnering like with librarians and stuff like that, they're creating these spaces where people can go and ask questions, and if they have the help there, hey, yeah, this is the housing workshop. You can come and you can learn how you can take care of the problem and do your form and then file it, and it's wonderful. So the courts are becoming now more and more a service center where people can go and get help. And many other doors, right? There's pro bono. There's always been firms that donate their time for free. We have a pro bono project here in Benton County, etc. So there are many paths to justice. Now, in the world of helping people out, what we have realized and the vision that we're working out, because there's only 1 per 10,000, right, is that it's not practical, and I'm quoting here from Glenn Rowden, who works at Legal Services Corporation that funds 136 legal aids across the country, is that it's not practical to think that anyone that asks for help will get a lawyer. We're no longer able to do one lawyer, one client most of the time. But what we're trying to do is find the best resources for that person and not send them out without nothing. And so this is technology, where technology comes in. This is the vision that we're working with in the technology legal aid nonprofit world. And so in 1989, right, we've heard the internet got invented in 1989. And in around 1999, the question was, can we use this wonderful web to get this information to people so that they can help themselves, so that they can know what is a reasonable expectation, how a case could be solved, etc. So I work with a company that is called Pro Bono Net, and we powered up a lot of technology that's now used to resolve civil problems for people online for free. Now, the websites and the tools that we were using in 1999 are nothing like the tools that we're using now. And now we're going through a mobile revolution, right? The Pew Internet studies tell us that most people are using handheld platforms, basically phones and tablets, to find health and legal information. So everything is moving from a static brochure or a static website or even PDF to handheld devices where you can interact. And so one of the things that happened in 1999 is that the decision was made. Each state will have one website, one domain.org website, where the legal aid groups will take the best expertise in the top problems that families face, and that will be available out there for free online. And it will be collated, it will be the most relevant, and what, from 99 to now, we're going through and we're like doing everything that's done. It's centered on the user needs, it's tested, it's plain language, it's interactive, etc. So in every single state, there's one of these websites. So if somebody has a problem in Illinois or somebody has a problem in Michigan and it's housing, they can find their domain.org website and they can read the law for that state. And this has been around and continues to improve. And in these websites, we have web chat, we have video, we have quizzes. People can answer questions and interact and get a custom printout of what they need to do to bring when they're going to go see this particular type of case, etc. One of the most valuable tools is online forums. And I actually manage the national platform that we have about 4,000 online forums, and people can go do an interview and create their own legal document, as difficult or complex as their case is. Because what we're doing with technology is that we're taking the brains of the best lawyers about this issue, and we're hard coding it into the software so that a person that is not an expert can interact with it and create something that is professional, complete, doesn't have any holes. Instead of spending 4 hours, takes 45 minutes, and you can do this, and you can do this by yourself. So from January to August 31st, through this Law Help Interactive tool that I manage, we have managed to create over 406,000 free legal documents across the United States, Guam, Hawaii, etc. And in Washington State, right now, we have 6 forums in different areas of law that anyone that is in need of some consumer issues, some simple divorces, juvenile expungement for anyone that has a kid that's going to be looking for a job or graduating from high school and trying to rent a place. There are all these tools that people can use. And this is just one example of a technology tool that is helping close the justice gap. But we know that technology is not the end of it all, right? You can have the most wonderful technology, but to close the justice gap, how do we close it? The technology is getting us there, but how do we really close it? And what I've concluded is that the only way we're going to close the justice gap is if we do it together as a community. And by that I mean is that we start opening those doors for each other, and that you put on your institutional hat or your aunt hat or your cousin hat. And the first thing is, if you hear somebody say, "Oh, I have such bad luck, I'm not getting paid, whatever, and I'm just going to get paid late, and I'm going to miss the rent, and I'm going to get a notice of eviction, but there's nothing I can do." The bell should go on and should be like, no, don't just do nothing. Go, there are resources, there are law, and do something, and talk to me about it. And, encourage people not to accept these problems as fate or as bad luck. empower them to think, hey, this could have a civil law dimension, and the law is fair and it's beautiful. So that's the one thing. So how do we close the justice gap? We become an empowered community. So we have the lawyers who arguably are the experts, and we have the person that has the need. But in between, there's all of us, including you. And so in your institutional hat, at work, whatever you're doing, your hobbies or whatever, you can help close the gap. And so this is exactly how you come in. Like I said, you can become the go-to person. You could decide, I'm going to learn what's available in WashingtonLawHelp.org. You know, I work with kids, or I sit at the counter and people are not able to pay the library fee or whatever it is, and I ask them why, and 80% of them tell me it's because of this issue. I'm going to be curious and I'm going to go read. And next time somebody comes, I'm going to say, hey, go read this here. Or, hey, there's this website. So be the person that becomes the resource for your community. The other thing is, if you're feeling the problem yourself, you may be feeling really stressed out. You may have even sought legal aid. You may have even called, and they probably maybe told you, sorry, we can't help you. You know, it's not the type of case we take, or we don't, you know, our lawyers are not available for that date. Don't give up. There's not enough lawyers. So don't give up. Figure out how you're going to avail yourself of the additional information, or ask somebody that you trust for help. The other thing is, if you're working in the nonprofit sector or in the government sector, talk to your funders. Maybe you can open a door. Maybe you can start a collaboration with your local legal aid, or a statewide legal aid, or a legal aid that specializes in a particular type of problem. You know, the other thing is, because these groups recognize that there's not enough of them, they do realize that training and outreach is super important. If you have a lot of people in your organization that are coming in with the same problem, request a training. If you assure them that you will bring enough people to make it worth their while, they will go and they will train you on a particular poverty law area or civil area, and they will do it for free. Because to them, the more people that know about the law, the less problems, the less calls to the hotline, the better outcomes for everyone, because nobody likes to say no, right? Like, who wants to be saying no? We can't help you. So, you know, get together with people that you're working with and request training. Become a legal aid ally. Facebook, Twitter, all of these tools are also being used to share the word. And these groups are coming with very innovative ways of providing services. So if they're doing a workshop on the weekend, if they're doing something at the library, follow them on Twitter, follow them on Facebook. You never know when you're going to see something that somebody in your community needs. So just to end, I think that the only way we're going to close the justice gap is if we do it together, and we do it as a community. Thank you.